Uh-oh.
Up in her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that the back and forth between Gervonta Davis earlier this week carried over into the next day. As young Shakur as Stevenson said, who is the top 235 pounders? Why wouldn't we be fighting this year? If you've got a 6 or 7 fight deal, why can't I be first on your list since I'm everything you say I am, gangster?
It's a valid question.
Gervonta, you getting up here barking, but you know damn well you don't want to see me next, pussy boy. To which Gervonta responded, "You're a bitch, little guy. You're not the top. You're a top-ranked fighter. They run the ranks. Your ass should be fighting on Thursday Night Boxing faithfully after the Play Andre Ward clips, you bum."
This guy's content just arguing online instead of settling it in the ring.
How the fuck are you supposed to be king shit? King of the hill, the best in show, the best at 135, and the biggest name, the A-side to everybody, and you haven't fought these people yet.
Because he doesn't want to.
Look how scared he is of me, little bitch. Nobody cares about none of that. People want to know, will you fight me this year? I'm the best fighter you've ever got in the ring with. Just a couple of years ago, you was trying to come to a training camp with me and my coach in Colorado. Did you forget, you punchy-ass midget?
You added that last part, didn't you?
Gervonta will say anything and everything, but let's fight. But let's go. Let's do it. Let's make it. Let's hash it out. He'll say anything and everything, but that.
This guy's almost 30 years old. Almost 30 years old, still talking about things that happened when they were kids. Because these guys, Shakur and Devin, they're younger than he is by several years.
Gervonta continued, "I need Gervonta to lose as soon as possible. If I didn't take Floyd's spot in the sport, boy..."
You didn't.
Twitter user that goes by the name Benji said, "You are below Canelo. What the fuck are you talking about?" To which Gervonta responded, "I'm not below nobody.
Yes, you are.
Tell Canelo to fight Benavidez June 22nd, bitch."
Why don't you tell him?
And see what he tells you. Gervonta Davis's delusions of grandeur, thinking that he's taken Floyd Mayweather's spot. Floyd, in his heyday, was the top-earning athlete in the sport, often gracing the Forbes list as the top earner in all of boxing and one of the top earners in all of sports.
Gervonta has never done that. Gervonta has never been that. Not in America, not anywhere.
He's not the top-earning boxer in all of sports. He's not even the top-earning boxer in the American market. He's not even the second highest earning boxer in the sport. So how could you say that you overtook Floyd? That you took Floyd's spot? No, Canelo took Floyd's spot.
You know what your problem is? It's who you appeal to.
The people that go up to bat for Gervonta online, as many of them as there are, they're not all paying customers. They're not all paying their way and paying to see him fight. That's why he didn't do 1 million buys until he fought Ryan, because Ryan brought his fans to the table, and that helped to make up the difference.
It's not to say Gervonta didn't have no fans. That's saying between Gervonta's fans and Ryan's fans, that's why it did 1 million. But without a Ryan Garcia, oh, you're not doing that.
You were on pay-per-view 5 times before that. You didn't do 1 million before that. You're not going to do 1 million after that. You're not doing 1 million with Frank Martin. You'll be lucky if you can do 500,000 with Frank.
Damn lucky.
You think you overtook Floyd as the face of boxing because you sold 1 million pay-per-view buys once? You're almost 30 years old. By the time that Canelo Alvarez was 30 years old, he already sold 1 million pay-per-view buys more than once.
His numbers were way better than your numbers.
The baseline for a Gervonta Davis pay-per-view is at or around 200,000 buys. Canelo sold more than that with Amir Khan.
600,000 with Amir Khan, 900,000 with Miguel Cotto, over 1 million both times with Gennady Golovkin, really all three.
500,000 with B-Ball, 800,000 with Caleb Plant. See, you don't do numbers like that. And the reason you don't, it's because of who you appeal to. You appeal to degenerates.
Yeah.
You appeal to bums.
Shoplifting.
Guys who steal shit. You think they're buying your fights? They're fire sticking most of the content, if not all of the content. They watch.
You're not gonna get but so far with a fan base like that when that is who you appeal to.
So the next best thing would have to be the matchmaking. That a match is so good, so intriguing, that it provokes people who otherwise don't buy your fights to buy your fight because of how good it is. Say, a Shakur Stevenson fight, or a Devin Haney fight, that even if you're not a Tank Davis fan, you'd still pay to see it because it's a good fight.
I am not a fan of Gervonta Davis, but if he were to fight either of those two fighters, yeah, I'd buy the fight. Of course I would.
And therein lies the dilemma. He doesn't want to fight them. He doesn't want to fight in fights like that. So you're never going to get to that point to where you're the face of the sport and you're the highest earning boxer. You have the most fans that pay the most money to see you fight. You will never get there.
You're almost 30 years old.
Being the face of boxing is not some kind of ethereal designation that doesn't come with requisites. It comes with requisites, parameters that characterize what it is and what it means to be the face of boxing.
The face of boxing is the guy who makes the most money because his fights get the most attention. Thus, they generate the most revenue. That's not Gervonta. Just because people talk about you online.
People talk about funny cat videos online. That doesn't mean they're spending any fucking money. And to be the face of boxing, you're the guy who gets people to spend the most money. It's not Gervonta. Is Gervonta's upcoming fight with Frank Martin, is that gonna sell more than Haney versus Garcia? Is it? Is it gonna sell more than Canelo versus Munguia?
Is it?
Been patting themselves on the back for those numbers from last year, but that was last year, and that was literally a year ago.
What kind of numbers are you gonna put up this year?
I'm gonna have a lot of fun finding out.
Face of boxing.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Devin Haney will eclipse Gervonta Davis as the face of boxing, says his father, Bill Haney.
Gervonta's not the face.
I see what people try to do with Gervonta. They try to say that maybe he's the face for a specific group of people in the American market. And maybe to them he is, to them. But unless they make up the whole of boxing,
Which they don't.
he's not the face. Gervonta Davis might be over with after this fight Bill Haney told Boxing Scene. After we dismantle and beat up a healthy Ryan Garcia at 140 pounds and do some numbers, it might be over with for the former face of boxing, Tank Davis, who says that he can't get the fight. How are you going to be the face of boxing and you can't get the fight that you want? Devin has crossed platforms. We dealt with Stefan Espinoza at Showtime. We dealt with Eddie Hearn, with Matchroom and DAZN. We dealt with Bob Arum and Top Rank and ESPN. All of that Bill is describing, that's what lends itself to Devin Haney's growing profile and fan base, that he's showing the paying public, the actual customers, that he's willing to do what he has to do to make big fights.
The people that matter.
Because if you don't pay to see any of this stuff, you and your opinion doesn't fucking matter.
You have to pay.
We dealt with Bob Arum and Top Rank and ESPN, and now we're dealing with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy and DAZN. We did what it takes to make the Garcia fight happen. We broke down the myth that there were sides of the street. We do it for the people. The people put the target on their backs, and we delivered the fights.
What's important to note is that Devin Haney, in spite of being the defending champion, he took the lower split.
We talked about it here on the channel a few days ago, that in spite of being the WBC champion, the two-division champion overall, he decided to take the lower split to ensure that the fight would happen. So no one can accuse Devin Haney of A-side politics or A-side antics and just those shenanigans that often hold up a fight. No one can accuse Devin.
No catch weight, no weight stipulation. He's not trying to weaken the guy.
Davis has a strong track record at revenue, and Haney versus Garcia will ultimately be compared to the big business Davis did there in his May 2022 knockout over Rolly Romero. Additionally, Davis helped drive 1.2 million pay-per-view buys and 22.8 million in ticket revenue for his own fight with Garcia last year. But that fight Unlike this fight, that fight was marinated and built up over years.
Tell the whole story, why don't you?
The pay-per-view numbers for Haney versus Garcia don't have to be close to Davis versus Garcia, said Bill Haney. They have to beat the current numbers in 2024. We know the world of fire sticks happen. We can't judge the past. Let's talk about and beat the 2024 numbers. If we beat any number in 2024, then that says Devin is the face in 2024. We don't go on 2023.
Veteran Mayweather Promotions towel boy Leonard Ellerby chimed in, gave his 2 cents.
Clearly, whomever scaled their fight didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and it will ultimately cost the fighters a bunch of money. Leonard Ellerby, Davis's promoter, recently posted to his ex-social media account a reference to the like business Haney versus Garcia has done so far. Haney agreed to a 55-45 revenue split in favor of Garcia for the gate, sponsorships, and pay-per-view percentages to ensure the fight would happen.
Isn't that bad optics, though?
No, because Devin Haney is younger than Gervonta Davis, and underneath it all, underneath Bill Haney's hyperbole, we all know that he's playing catch-up. He's trying to catch up to where Gervonta Davis is, but he may yet catch up to him, because if he parlays the numbers from this fight into another fight, another pay-per-view,
Say Teofimo Lopez.
while Gervonta is fighting the Frank Martins of the world, Devin's numbers might actually be on par. I don't know what's going to stop a Haney versus Davis fight from happening because it wasn't the money, Bill Haney said. I said there was $20 million on the table. Chairman of the Saudi Arabian General Entertainment Authority, Turki Al-Sheikh, said there was even more. He said, let's talk about it. I think Tank said something about Ferraris. His Excellency sent over some boxing gloves, and I haven't heard anything from there. The paying public, the actual customers, they see that and they don't like it. Because if anybody has the money to satisfy the financial demands of both the fighters, it's His Excellency.
So money couldn't have been the issue.
Money couldn't have been the holdup, and money is often the holdup and why some fights don't happen. But that couldn't have been the holdup here because you have all the money you need right there. All you have to do is open up a dialogue if you want the fight. And what that revealed to the customers and the paying public is that Davis don't want it.
He's a fucking coward.
You can't come in and talk the shit that I talk if you don't have the best fighter in the world. Devin is special. So we're going to move on and keep moving towards the Mount Rushmore of boxing. That means taking over the broadcasting networks, taking over the arenas, and delivering the fights. We'll let the attractions catch up if they want to catch up.
Devin can parlay the numbers from this fight into another fight, another decent-sized fight with Teofimo Lopez. There's nothing stopping him from going back to Top Rank and doing a deal with them.
If he wins this weekend, and most people think that he's going to, he can go right into that fight, right into those negotiations with Lopez. And while he does that, what is Gervonta Davis going to be doing? What is he going to serve up to the paying public? Another fight that nobody's asking for. And he's almost 30 years old.
It's not because I like Bill, and it's not because I like Devin. It's because it's true.
If Haney versus Garcia ends up bringing in more buys than Davis versus Martin, that is not a good look for Davis and his claim that he's the face of this or the face of that.
It's bad optics.
Demand for him to fight Devin Haney, it's gonna get bigger. It's gonna grow.
You should have fought him when he was still at 135 because he's only getting better.
Finally, upstairs in men's heavyweight news, Deontay Wilder remains hopeful of landing an Anthony Joshua showdown after knocking Zhang's head off, and we'll see if he can. It's a tough ask because he's coming off a loss, and in many ways so is Zhang, but Zhang's loss was not as demoralizing as Wilder's, even though they both lost to the same guy. Speaking to the BBC, Wilder explained that it would be a shame if he were not able to face his British rival before the pair retire. I always said it before, it'll be a shame if we never fought each other, Wilder told the BBC. It only takes that one fight. June 1st is going to be that night, that one fight. Deontay Wilder knocks Zhang's head off, and the world goes crazy. And there we go again. Wilder versus Joshua. They want it again.
That's the way it is.
I'd be lying to you if I told you that the fight means to me, here and now, what it meant years ago. It doesn't. But at the same time, I understand that if Wilder can pull this off and beat this guy,
That's still a big fight.
and if they made it, people are still going to want to see it. That if you told people Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder are fighting on this date, people are going to want to watch. Even if it doesn't mean now what it meant before, they're still going to want to see it. He just has to get through this last hurdle. Reflecting on his defeat to Parker, Wilder insisted he remains a better fighter than former foe Parker and that the New Zealander was the better man on the night. That monster wasn't there no more, said Wilder. It was one of those boring fights versus Parker where if anyone did any action, they won. That's how I look at that fight. Joseph Parker is definitely not better than Deontay Wilder. He was just the better man on the night.
Well, he's been a champion like Deontay. He's got a better resume in many ways than Deontay.
And been in there with more of the who's who fighters of this era than Deontay. Perhaps that's why he was better prepared on the night than Deontay. Boxing is a sport where there are so many nuanced explanations, where some make sense and some don't, that if you really are that much better than Joseph, you would have shown it. And it's not like he was asking for a rematch immediately after. It's not like he was demanding that they run it back. He wasn't.
His explanation for the loss is tantamount to saying that he wasn't inspired. He was dejected. The monster wasn't there. So what is supposed to make us believe that the monster is there now ahead of a Zhang fight?
Between the time you lost to Parker and where we are now, what exactly woke the monster up? That you lost?
I would have thought if the monster woke up after that loss, the monster would have wanted a rematch. The monster would have wanted to knock Joseph Parker's head off. As it stands, Parker moved on. He fought Zhang. Then he beat him. Now you're fighting each other.
One last hurdle for Deontay Wilder and what could be the last gasp of what was intended to be a Joshua versus Wilder fight. If he can make it past this guy, he has an out. He does.
Zhang is a southpaw, and southpaws are particularly susceptible to the straight right hand, which just so happens to be Wilder's money punch. The problem is he couldn't find it in the Parker fight.
So is he gonna find it in a Zhang fight? This is a bigger guy. Big guy, big target. Strong guy though, very strong. There's snap on that backhand. There's snap on that straight left hand. He could do to you with his left what you might do to him with your right, making it a situation where it's all about who lands and who lands first.
I don't think Deontay Wilder could take a clean, straight left hand from Zhang, but I do wonder if Zhang can take his right.
They can both counter each other's lead hands. They can both counter each other's jabs with their backhands. Do a lot of damage very quickly. The difference is Zhang is a more fundamentally sound fighter than Deontay Wilder, isn't he? More coordinated, more balanced.
And bigger.
It's what's in front of him. Deontay Wilder may be one right hand away from finally doing the Joshua fight. Just one right hand.
So close.
Though he's no more closer now than he was ahead of the Parker fight. And he didn't get past him. A part of the intrigue of all of it, not just the boxing and the mechanics, is Wilder's heart actually in it? How bad does he want that Joshua fight? Bad enough to get the job done? Because he didn't last year.
Said the monster wasn't there.
The stakes were the same, but according to Wilder, the monster wasn't there. This may just be him putting on a brave face ahead of what is his last stand.
He's gonna sell it.
Make it sound good, but we won't know how bad he wants to get to that Joshua fight until he's in there with Zhang.